Hey, chat. Good evening. Also, just real quick, I don't know if people saw us. I put this up last night, but this was something Maddie helped me put together. This is what we wanted that whole blaming chat thing to look like, and see if you guys noticed the Clyde part of it. I thought it was kind of funny. But we couldn't make it work. Anyways, guys, hello. Welcome to Tuesday night. I'm Sean, someone's potentially criminal. I'm an attorney for a while still in Ohio, but not for long. Going to be joining the lovely future Mrs. Martin 2.0 down in Florida. And echo. How bad's the echo? I don't know if it's going to let me do a monitoring. Oh, you mean the walls are echoing? Oh. Yeah, well, sorry guys. Anyway, the office is empty, and if you guys don't realize like how serious we are right now, like we are, I'll just give you a little tour real quick. We are very much getting ready to move here. So there you go. There's the corner. And there's, the whole the whole office is being just completely gutted. So that's like the only little bit of soundproofing I have left is over there on the wall. So yeah, we're kind of up against it, guys. We're up against it. Sounds like I'm in a fishbowl. I'm sorry. Everybody last night said it was okay. So how many silk shirts will I get? I don't know. It'd take a lot of silk for that. I'm really committed to this fake moving bit. Yeah. Yes. So, no echo. I'm assuming you're using laptop mic. Yes. And once again, guys, if you ever see 2.0 in chat, please tell her thank you, or please tell her congratulations on her stuff. She worked really hard for this, and I think it's going to be a fun time for all of us down there. But she really did kick some ass. Fallen Preacher says, leaving? Yes, we're going to Florida. The FBI promoted her. Audio delay on kick, yeah. Saying it's pretty bad. I don't know. I'll figure out something I can do that's temporary. Sorry. I have noticed, though, since we boxed up like everything. Hold on, let me see. Echo. Oh, wow. Oh, I can't hear that. I don't come in here and talk usually, so since this all happened, but the whole house echoes right now, so it's very, very weird. Very weird. Yes, you're getting content from the Sandwich Bunker. Sakai Hime with the bees. Was that really a thing, though? Like, me and Copian said something like Kick wanted to do to gauge support or interest. Is that him just being goofy or what? I don't know. But anyways, yes, we're using a laptop tonight, so it's same camera, though. Same camera, so at least you're getting that. And then Garrett says, yes, Robert Barnes was having a coronary now that Massey got yeeted. Hey, you know what? Good riddance. I don't mind him having positions, but, it's when Rokana's got your back, you're not doing the right thing, homie. And remember, it's just, you think these people are your friends, Thomas, Massey? They're going to kick you out and kill you as soon as they're done with you. You have no use to them after this. So they were not going to be his friend. They're not going to be his friends anymore. He's going to be like, wait, where did everybody go? I thought we were friends. And they're like, we have no use for you. So Safa. Also, I'm glad the lighting seems like it's working out. Okay. So let's did Null finish in you? Thanks, Bob. Let's see. I'm ruined after I ruined Ohio, yes. Cowpoke says she's your handler. Yes, I have the sincere belief that she claims to love me, and I don't believe that. She's so amazing. It's too good to be true. I'm assuming the FBI sent her to monitor me and keep me out of trouble. That's been the running theory for a while now. Build a Daryl Brooks fort around me. I mean, I could. I've got a couple of boxes loading up stuff. The DOJ's to indict Raul Castro. Yeah, but it's like, well, there goes the property values, sweetheart. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, when Cenk Uger's rooting for you, yeah. I'm forced to flee Ohio because of the casino A-logging. Oh, no. I mean, I was thinking if I had more time, I would go to Fun Buffet just to rub it in PPP's face. Did I pack away the mic already? Yes, it's already in that box. And I kind of have to because it's like I've got the mic arm just kind of hanging here. I didn't realize what happened. When I took the mic off, this thing like was counterbalanced no longer, so it was like it like shot up and wanted to like rip off the table. So yes, we are done. This angle's slimming. Yeah, thank you, Katie. John Coleman says, "Am I for $2? Am I moving to Otter Creek with Jeremy Hales?" No. Believe it or not, no. That's not something I would enjoy at all. So, I will not do that. Also, do not send anything to the P.O. Box. Actually, good point here. Till we get down there. I'll get one set up when I get down there, guys. So, hang tight. Mitch McConnell got voted out, which is good. They all need to go. Yes, the Ozempic angle. This is certainly a background I know. Like a Swiffer, a Banker's Box, and a TM62 mine. So great. It's really multifaceted when you think about it, how it works. I'm moving to Ybor City, the gay capital of Florida. Well, that's where you're the mayor, aren't you? Am I going to be Destiny's next door neighbor? No, I'm not going to be near Miami. Thank God Geronimo was dying out here. Well, here we go. All right, guys. Enough time we wasted talking. Let's get to this. Where do we send the spiders to now? Nowhere. I'm going to have enough of them down in Florida. All right. Let's see. We are live on Twitter and Kick and YouTube here. No, we already have a house. We already have something. 2.0's already got the keys, and she's going to go down Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning. She's leaving like Sunday morning, the 24th. And she's taking the doggos and the Kit Kats and heading straight down because she's got she's got to start she had some time where she thought she'd be able to get the house in order, but they're like, no, we need you to work right now. So she's going to be going all out, and then I'm finishing up here and then heading down. So, she's found a house that she's like, this can be a forever house. Like it's got everything she wants in it. So it's really good. Is 2.0 going to chat on Discord? I don't know. She's going to be going down with some, I think, I don't know if she's going to do that. That's up to her, but she might. There going to be no more Clyde for 2 weeks. There won't be Clyde. So next week there won't be Clyde, and the week after that there won't be Clyde. There won't be Lainey. There won't be any cats. There won't be 2.0. There won't be anyone. Yes, if you see a Sean-sized alligator, you'll know what had happened. Oh no, that'd be rough. I feel bad for the alligator. This has to be set up for her FBI informant position. She'll be busy. She's not an informant. She's probably a special agent in charge. There's no way. My cat's name is Karen. Says, you're not far from Peter Tragos. Oh, he's, hold on here. Let me see. Oh, I need Google Map. That's why. Because I think he's in Clearwater. That's over by Tampa. Yeah, Tragos, Sartris, and Tragos. They are in Clearwater, Florida. Oh yeah, they are whoa, they are they are super far away. They are super far away from where we're gonna be. Yeah, from where our new house is going to be, it's like 2.5 hours away. And that's like going right through. Oh, yeah. That's, yeah, geez, there's no straight lines in the state. So don't forget I'm in Pensacola. Okay, yeah, that would be a thing. Purple Cowcats is hanging out. Peter Tragos would be fun. Oh, he sounds great. I'm sure he's busy, and I don't know. I don't know if he'd slim it. I don't know if he'd slim it with the commoners like us. But he's a very nice guy. Tragos is in my town, Clearwater, on the west side. Oh, so you live with a Scientologist. Watch out for the Scientologist. I'm not even going to be close to him. Not even close to him. So, don't go to Clearwater. Wasn't intending on it anytime soon. Wall up the city. Oh, no, that's not good. All right, let's get started, though, chat. It's time to hit the road here. So, we have Luigi Mangione. If you guys remember, he is the... Do we have Raising Cane's in Ohio? Yes, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Like, they have like the most basic menu in the world. It's like just like 4 things, and I'm like, it's okay. Like the sauce, like I know people like their sauce, but it's like, it's okay. I mean, it tastes good, but and then the chicken, I will say the chicken's actually like really nice compared to like KFC or whatever. But I mean, it just for that, I can get a job as a sandbag for the Hurricanes. Yeah, I could. I'll go lay down in front of the house and help block some of the water. You think Raising Cane's is dry? Really? I don't think so. I don't think so. Cases, get ready for the Chinese food to suck. Why? Why they don't have Chinese people down there? Like the Ministry of State Security couldn't infiltrate more people to Florida? And my Mexican's going to be really good. Well, yeah, that's great. 2.0 loves Mexican food. So, oh, they're upset about that whole thing. Yeah, I know. That's so funny. Back at Thomas Massey. Yeah, well, there you go. Did I see what happened with Ryan Mullally and Destiny? Yeah, that was pretty good. It was pretty good. Ryan kind of handled him. Ryan handled him pretty well. I kind of like how Rob Orr's just kind of like hanging out, watching it happen. Like he jumped in at points, but I know he was just sitting there. He's like, let them fight. And he's just, Rob just like looking at his like super chat, pa-ching, 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 pa-ching. But yeah, he handled him pretty well. Stephen Cooper says Guatemalans make all the Chinese food. No, around here we actually have like, when you call like Panda House, they're like, hello, Panda House. Or China House. The Mexican food in Florida is shit. Uh-oh. Hold on, I can break news at 2.0. She just said she knows that, and she heard that it's like Taco Bell and Cinco de Mayo are better than all the restaurants there. It's like I like Mexican food, but that's fucking horrible. It's a horrible way to live. Yeah, Frogan got felted big time today. We may get into that in a minute. We may cover that on the back end. So we may get into the back end here. Yeah, we have Cuban food, but still. So, all right, let's get to it, guys. So, anyways, Luigi Mangione, he is accused of murdering. The CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. And for those of you guys who don't remember what happened, I mean, we'll go back and see this here. But he did his whole He did his whole thing, and I mean, it's a very famous thing. If you guys don't remember, this occurred in December of 2024, and he showed up. He went all the way from his house with a Glock 17 that he printed out. Shout out to Chairman Juan, and also had a suppressor made and got a suppressor put together, and comes out and yeah. So here we are, and this is Le Famous video. This is Brian Thompson walking down the street, and here comes Thwap. And you just watch him with the anchor shots. Just watch him with the anchor shots. Just yes, very much pew. Very much a lot of pew. Now, what happened from there? What happened from there? Well, at that point, Luigi got on the run and made it out to Altoona, Pennsylvania. And if you guys don't know, well, bring that up on a map, because I guess we'll do on the map. On the map. On the map. Okay. Altoona, Pennsylvania. If you guys don't know how far he got all the way to Altoona, Pennsylvania, which is a nice little bit of distance from New York City. He got all the way to here. You know, it's a nice little trip. You know, he made his getaway and tried to make his getaway here. And, you know, he got pretty far. He got pretty far into Pennsylvania. Was Mario helping him? No. No, he was not. When he got caught, though, the police had an encounters with him. And when the encounters started, we had a couple, like the initial encounter was on body cam, and we have that. And his initial body cam with the police was, and I hate it when this won't. I hate this. It won't like just stop. I hate that. Like Twitter, just stop when I click stop. But anyway, this is the interactions here. And this is his initial thing here. And why did it start? It's because, remember, his identity got kind of known, and a lot of people, somebody called him like, I think this might be the guy.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you guys can hear that. They say, what's your name?
What's your name? Mark.
What's that?
What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, I'm trying to turn it up.
Right, I thought you were...
I don't know if you guys can hear. I'm sound boosting it.
What? Sorry. Someone called.
Okay, so the sound sucks on this. But yes, he uses his name. He says, I'm Mark Rosario. So they start trying to run information on from there, and things don't start working. Because obviously when you start giving your things out and it looks a little weird, well, that's when the cops get suspicious.
You were suspicious. Is your ID on you? Yes.
And see, this is where it all starts falling apart. You know, because if he has ID, well, that's not going to match up. But here's the other thing. If you don't have ID, they're going to say, okay, give us your birth date and your social security number. They're going to run that, and it's not going to work. And this is something, I have clients, they do this all the time. You know, people get charged with obstructing because they give a bogus name and, you know, or they'll give their name, but they'll give a bogus birth date or a bogus soc. And it's like, why? Like, they type it into a computer. It's not like it's 1970 where they're just like, you know, they write it all down and they're like, okay, well, thank you, sir. No, they go and check it. They have their data terminals, and that stuff is typed in. And if it's out of state, they can call into their station and run your information. There's all kinds of things they could do to check out who you are and what you're doing. So this is, just don't lie about who you are, because it's not going to work. The cops are not that stupid. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. He says, yeah, go in there and say, what's your name? My name's Sean Martin. Yeah, if he'd used his real name, he probably would have been fine. Yeah. Yeah, he probably would have. At this point, nobody knew who he was. So why did he do this? Jeremiah Maddox saying, well, what do you want him to say? If he hadn't said anything, he would have walked away fine. They wouldn't have realized it was him till probably days later.
I thought she looked like someone guilty to.
And guess what? The cops could tell when you have a fake ID. The cops could tell when you have a fake ID. All right. Yeah, know when he was till he. Summonable Trap. Good to see you, by the way, guys. No one knew who he was till he put on the murder. Yes. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful, like, when you do this. Mexican Vader says, sorry, I don't talk to cops, no excuses. Well, when they're investigating, they have the right for information. Yeah, and Luke has got a great point here. They had Mark Rosario matched up on the murder. They literally had nothing on Luigi. Yep. And so when he says he's Mark, guess what happens afterwards shortly? A million cops show up because something sketchy's going on, and we think we have a very violent person on our hands. So guess what? They're all here now. Okay, and now from here, he gets arrested, his property is searched, and we get to issues of suppression. And we're going to start with that because this just came out yesterday. Now, when we get into this here, this is where we start. And this is, oh, hold on here. Why is this not working? Oh, we got to fix that. There we go. Okay. So here we go. What is this? Now remember, guys, he's got two separate cases. He's being tried in New York State court. He's also being tried federally. So we've got two separate cases we're worrying about. This is just the state court case. This is just a state level case. And, he's got his own problems. He's got problems in both. But right now, it's the Supreme Court of New York. Remember, that's the trial level organization. So it's not like the highest court in the land. This is the trial court level. So it's the people that stand in New York versus Luigi. Remember, this is how they titled things by the judge here. And they point out all of this here. They talk about on December 4th, he was shot to death. On December 9th, Luigi was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after he was recognized by employees who had seen media coverage. Now, when they found his backpack, they found the 9mm gun, which was a Glock. What did they find? Also a loaded magazine, silencer, cash, a passport, and a notebook. So what do we go through here? Well, they have different things that are getting suppressed. Luigi's trying to suppress everything. Not only these physical items, but also his statements. So they want to suppress the evidence as well as the statements made to law enforcement officers during and after his arrest. And they point out that on September 16th, the court ordered a map and Huntley hearings, and those hearings were held in December, during which the court heard testimony for 17 witnesses. Both parties filed written submissions. And now this is the thing. It took a long time for the reasons below. The motions granted in part and denied in part. So yes, Luigi got some dubs here, but the government got some dubs. And honestly, the dubs for the government are bigger, but we'll get through everything here. So they talk about the basic thing, the arrest at McDonald's. And the interesting part here is these facts are largely undisputed. They point out a bunch of cops from the Altoona police testified and their body-worn camera footage was introduced. Now you might say, well, wait, it's a different state. Sure. But it's all being assessed here. So on December 9th, he bought food and sat in the back area to eat. And they say a McDonald's employee called 911 to report the defendant resembled the guy in the Thompson killing. And they go down here, the photographs of him had circulated in the media. Yeah, and the drawings of him. So these, at first, it's just 2 cops responded. And they point out that the one cop was a 14-year veteran who was familiar with the news videos, while the other guy was a rookie. So imagine that. It's like your first year on the job, and you're like, this is the guy you run into. So they saw him sitting back at the table with a backpack sitting near his feet and a laptop in front of him. Looks pretty normal. At that point, you're like, okay, it's just a dude being a dude. Maybe he's homeless. Maybe he's traveling. There's a lot here that's going on. When a defendant pulled down his face mask, the cop is saying he immediately recognized him as the New York City shooter, which he says that, but who really? I'm sure he says that now because now he looks, I am smart. But it's like, did you really know that? Did you really know? It's like, I don't think you did. So what do they do? When they asked for his name, he responded with Mark Rosario. When asked for identification, he produced a New Jersey driver's license. While they went to go verify it in the NCIC database, they asked him questions about where he was from and whether he had been in New York recently. They had him stand up and they frisked him, but they did not find any weapons or contraband. They're allowed to do a Terry stop. They're allowed to. They have some reasonable articulable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. So they are allowed to frisk him for weapons. They're allowed to check for officer safety. So that's Terry v. Ohio. There's also, I told you guys about this before, that's called the wingspan rule. And that's a case called Schimmel versus California, or California versus Schimmel. And that was a case where the guy was like sitting in a chair when the cops busted in. And he had all kinds of things around him he could reach into. And they were allowed to search that area to make sure there were no weapons. And in one of those, they found like a pistol in a drawer where he could have been like, and grabbed his pistol and started shooting. So now from here, guys, this is Adam, you're saying what? Well, it's called, there's different things like for searching for weapons. There's Terry, there's Schimmel, there's a case called Michigan v. Long, where they frisked a car. There's like ideas of search incident to arrest, like Gant versus Arizona. There's a lot of different things when you get into how do you, when can you search, who you can search, and what you're searching. Friday stood next to the defendant while Detlower went outside to call his lieutenant at the station, telling him he was about 100% sure this guy was the New York City shooter. So the lieutenant then came out along with a sergeant, a corporal, and another cop. So yeah, look, the whole gang's showing up. They began asking him if he was from New Jersey, what he was doing in Altoona, and whether he'd been in New York recently. At this point, chat, I don't answer questions. No. He stated that he was homeless. Okay. The cop then told the defendant they were just trying to confirm his identity and be able to leave. They're trying to stall. Although the cop conceded he had no intention of letting him leave, but at this point, would a reasonably prudent person know when 2 cops are talking, can you leave? I don't think you can leave at that point. You're being detained. You couldn't just up and walk away. Besides, they have his ID. So I think there's an issue here. But anyways, in response to further questions, the defendant said he was from the DMV area, and I don't know what that means. If you guys are familiar with that, the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia area. I've never heard of that. So, but if you're from that area, why do you have a New Jersey thing? So, anyway, I think it's funny. While the lieutenant's on his way, he attempted to reach the New York City Police Department by calling 911 and telling the operator they may have caught the shooter, which I think is so fucking funny. That like he called 911 and it's like, hello, I'm a cop out in Pig Knuckle, Pennsylvania. I think we found your shooter. It's like what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense here. But it's a goofy way of doing, I guess. Yeah, it's a goofy way of doing it, I guess, but I don't know, a little weird. So, he was still on the phone with 911 as he reached the McDonald's. He took the license and relayed the information to it for the 911 operator. Meanwhile, they moved the backpack that had been near his feet out of the way and out of the defendant's reach. Okay, so now notice you patted him down, you searched him for weapons. He didn't have any, but they didn't search the backpack right away. Now it's out of his reach. So guess what? He can't touch it. He can't do anything with it. It's now out of his wingspan. It's now out of his control. So if he has weapons in there, obviously I can't. If you take the backpack away from me, I can't grab the guns in it. So as more cops arrived, which is basically, once again, we're at this point now. We're at clearly at this point, I think we would all agree, you are not free to leave. But they asked him if he had been frisked, and yes, they said he had. About a minute later, the cops also went back, and then eventually, a bunch more cops showed up. Then another cop also arrived at the same time and went to the back. And they asked him to stand next. They then asked some of the cops to stand next to him. And they continued to stand next to him. They testified that he considered the defendant detained at this point. I think that's very obvious because look at, would a reasonable person think they're free to go? No, nobody in their right mind would think they're allowed to just go up and walk around right now. The whole department showed up. I mean, actually, how big is the Altoona Police Department? The Altoona Police Department has 68 officers. So yeah, this is a good portion of their of officers on duty on that shift. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. I think maybe 7, 8, 9. There's 9 cops on a freaking call. That's a lot of cops just for this. 8 or 9, however you want to consider it. That's a lot for that duty shift. A lot of cops out there. While speaking outside, he repeatedly told the one cop told his lieutenant the defendant was 100% the person wanted in New York City. Other cops came outside where they pulled up photos of the suspect on their phones. Inside, they asked the defendant if the backpack and laptop belonged to him, and he said that he did. They then moved them to a table about 9 feet away from the defendant. Now, notice the judge is pointing out the distance involved, 9 feet away. He no longer has control over that. 2 more officers, God, it really was everybody, enter the back of the McDonald's. At this time, Haney called the turnkey officer at headquarters and asked him to run the license through the NCIC system. No record was found, and that's how they know you're full of crap. They told him to give him a false ID warning as required under Pennsylvania law. In some states, you could be arrested. Every state you can be arrested for giving false ID. Some states, they have to give you a warning and say, if you are giving me a false name, I can arrest you. What is your name? And the idea is you'll say, okay, I really am Bob. In this situation, that wasn't what was happening. And they asked him, they said, would you be arrested if we gave you a false name? And he asked the defendant if his name was actually Mark, to which he replied, no, sir. They asked for his actual name and date of birth, which he provided. And he also said, hey, I have a fake ID. And you're like, all right, well. And they asked him, why did you lie? And the defendant said, clearly I shouldn't have. Asked again by Fry why he had done so. The defendant replied, that was the idea I had in my wallet. I had a fake ID. So, okay. Notice at that point, he's not free to go. And, we're getting into Miranda territory. Remember, Miranda is custody plus interrogation. Miranda. So, they then directed one of the officers to read his Miranda warnings. And Fox did so. When Fox asked the defendant if he wished to speak to him, he shook his head, also stating, no, I don't think. And then they told him that he was not in custody at this point. He's detained, though. They continued to ask the defendant why he had a fake ID, and the defendant responded that he was going to remain silent. Smart move. They ordered him to stand up and frisked him again. He volunteered he was carrying a jar of peanut butter. When asked if he had any weapons, he said no, but then he said he had a pocket knife, which is interesting that they didn't catch that the first time. The sergeant then relayed an instruction to handcuff the defendant. As he did so, they then retrieved the knife, added it to the table with the backpack and laptop replaced. So they reached out to the district attorney's office to determine the charges of file, eventually forgery and tampering. Now, they point out here that those are the things he had. While they were speaking to the DA's office, the defendant asked McCoy why there were so many officers there. And he said, we're just trying to figure it out. So they go on. About 9:58 a.m., which is, we're not too long into this, the lieutenant instructed the officers to place the defendant under arrest. And as they each took, Luigi by the arm, another one began putting on a pair of blue rubber gloves. They confirmed that they were arresting him for tampering and announced on the radio the defendant could be marked as in custody. So going in their computer-aided dispatch, it would show that he was at this point in custody. They searched his pockets and clothing. They recovered the peanut butter, a pouch of money, some coins, gloves, papers, a hat for your hat, and some string. They approached the table where the backpack was. He asked the defendant if there was anything in the bag they needed to know about. The defendant responded he was just going to remain silent. Brilliant idea. Actually really good. Shut up. They then proceeded to search his backpack. I mean, this becomes an issue. Because, what are we searching? What are we doing here? As they did so, employees and customers continued to walk through the area to access the toilet or the bathroom. I mean, do they have reason to search that yet? No. They're no longer an issue of officer safety. He's cuffed. If he's really this assassin you're worried about, and this is where I don't understand it. If they're sure he's the assassin they have, even their lieutenant has called the New York City Police Department, listen, I think we got that guy. This is where, most police departments would be like, we're not touching anything without a search warrant. We're getting a search warrant for this. We're going to get a search warrant for his backpack. We'll get a search warrant for every little thing we find. I don't understand why they didn't do this, but whatever. So they unzipped the main backpack compartment and removed a sandwich. Man after my own heart. As well as a loaf of bread. Very Italian of them. They continued to look through the backpack. They suggested go through that at the station. And the one cop said, I don't know. I just want to make sure there's nothing in there that's going to... And they joked they would rather have a bomb here than down at the station. Well, and they said, I don't want to pull a Moser, which is a reference to an officer once transported a pipe bomb back to the station house. Well, do you have any reason to believe there's a bomb there? You can't just go, well, one time there was a guy there, and one time he had a bomb, so we have to assume everybody has a bomb. No, you can't just do that. You can't just do that. Yes, this guy's out here freebasing peanut butter sandwiches. It was a meatball sub, wasn't it? No, it was a veal cutlet, I'm betting. I'm betting it was veal cutlets or chicken parm. So, I'm assuming that's what it was. And yes, real quick, Edward Scott says Ernesto Miranda was a kidnapper and rapist who spent a shockingly short amount of time in prison after being reconvicted. Yes, and he was famous for signing, he would sign Miranda warning cards, like the little business cards the cops would have with Miranda warnings on them. He would sign those for people to make a buck. And then funnily enough, he got stabbed in a bar fight and killed, and his killer invoked his Miranda rights. So it's full circle. Full circle. Real quick, John Coleman, thank you, John, for tonight. For $5 says, can you bring Hambley on your show? He needs an algorithm boost. I guess it's bad when I'm the algorithm boost here. So, but ultimately, though, is there a bomb in this? No, there's no, there is no reason to believe there's a bomb here. Oh, one time this happened to Bob. Okay, great. So, they, and notice the one cop says, stop. The corporal approached them, and they're still doing it, which I'm surprised that didn't get them in trouble. So anyways, they removed a red journal from the pouch, put it on the table. They recovered a waterproof bag known as a Faraday bag, which disrupts electronic signals. removed a cell phone, a passport, and a wallet from inside the Faraday bag. Also, Faraday bags are RFID proof, so people can't, sniff that information. They retrieved a small cardboard sleeve from the backpack and spent some trying to open it with a knife. You're opening containers you don't have the right to open. He eventually got it open and removed a computer data chip that was inside the cardboard. They handed the passport to Sergeant Miller and placed the other items in the bag. They then inspected the passport. They also examined the wallet and looked at 2 credit cards before returning them to the wallet. Now we're not only just what's inside there, but now we're digging through what we find. Guys, notice this, we're like, okay, I don't know if you should open it. Now we're not. It's not only that, but here's a wallet. Oh, okay. Well, what's you find the remote control in there. Oh, well, what's inside of it? Let's take it up. No, you don't. Don't rifle through stuff. If they think this guy is who they think he is, get a freaking search warrant. So they go on. They found his underwear. They found his tiny whities and unrolled it, revealing a loaded magazine for a handgun. After announcing a discovery to the officers, Trent stated, "Now that you've cleared it all, let's just go back to the station." She didn't clear. Well, the cop once again spotted, "We're just making sure it's not a bomb." Ha 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 ha. And once again, somebody said, "Now we found a magazine. Let's just take it back." Yeah. Once again, the lieutenant gets in and says he told them they should wait until they got back to the station before finishing. Yes, he was concerned about cross-contamination of DNA, and also because he did not want the search to occur in public, which is another great thing. Yes, but apparently nobody really got in charge of that. This isn't good. Think about it, guys. I'm sure you're all sitting here saying, wait, they're just searching in the middle of a McDonald's? And notice the judge commented, people are walking by. All kinds of stuff could happen to this evidence. The chain of custody, the cops are there, but they can mess with it. You can't, there's a difference between being in a police station where you can kind of it's a secure environment. Also, I'm really making an effort. Right before I started, I made a promise. I'm like, can I do this tonight without swearing? And I feel like I'm going to be able to do that. We're going to try that tonight. So we're just going to keep going. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm trying that tonight. They then placed everything back inside the backpack except for a few items, which were placed in a separate McDonald's bag to be taken back to the station. Okay, was this a McDonald's bag that had food in it previously? Is it this isn't it's like using the ShopRite bags in the Karen Reed case. You just don't do this. Go get the paper. I get it. It's cold and it's rainy. Go outside, get the evidence bag out of your car, and do it the right way. When the cops were asked if they retrieved a particular item, Wasser stated they had not completely searched the backpack because they just wanted to make sure there's no bombs. And he says at this point, the corporal says at this point, you're probably going to need a search warrant for it. You should have done that from the start. Another corporal agreed. A sergeant disagreed, stating they were permitted to do a search incident to an arrest. This is not, we're going to get to, this is not search. No, not like that. So the one cop carried the backpack to the station. The other one carried the McDonald's bag to his car. So anyways, now we get to the inventory searches. So they said, including the evidence custodian, which remember, guys, every police department's got somebody who's in charge of the evidence. Now, obviously, there's command staff who have access to the evidence locker and can get into things at times. But generally, especially in smaller departments, you have a cop who's in charge of the evidence. He's been trained in running all the stuff, can print out the labels, input things, put them in the lockers and the coolers, get all the evidence sorted out and ready for other parties to come get. So they have an evidence custodian. That's not uncommon. And for a department of 70 people, that makes total sense to have. Makes total sense to have somebody in charge of safekeeping all the evidence. So he tested about the policies and guidelines concerning inventory searches. And guys, inventory searches are something that have been around for a while, with Bertine versus Colorado, Opperman versus South Dakota. Is it Opperman? Hold on. I just said that. Hold on. Upperman v. South Dakota. Well, that goes in. It's a caretaking situation, but there was Bertine versus Colorado, which really got to the whole. Colorado versus Bertine. Sorry, chat. Inventory was that one. Sorry. I'm like, I try to keep up. I try to remember everything. But I'm not always on top of it. But the idea about inventory policies, and you have to have a policy for it. So according to their orders, and this is how you fight if there's an inventory search and you're like, this is a bunch of crap. I don't think it was. You can get a copy of the police policies and they'll tell you how to do an inventory search. So what happens? Well, you get an inventory search of a detainee upon arrival at headquarters and before being placed in a cell. And it talks about how you properly document and store their property. What requires officers to generate an itemized inventory of all items taken. They say any evidence, contraband, or weapons will not be returned, but would be noted on the property form and documented in the official incident report. And they say detainees escorted to the station house intake area for the arrest to be processed. When possible, the property would be inventoried in his or her presence so as to minimize claims of theft or damage. However, if the search reveals a weapon, the inventory should be moved outside of the intake area and away from the detainee. Every piece of clothing would be searched, as would every bag, jewelry, extra clothing, and other personal items would be removed and stored. You might say, well, what happens if you think you need a search warrant? You get, this is one of the exceptions to a warrant, chat. This is one of the exceptions. There's inventory searches. There's the automobile exception. There's consent. There's a couple of exceptions to the search warrant requirements under the Fourth Amendment. And one of them is inventory searching. There's also plain view. But the cops, if they're inventorying your car because it's going to get towed, especially like if you have a DUI and they're towing your car and arresting you, well, they find your sawed-off shotgun and your 80 pounds of cocaine, well, then you're in trouble. They're going to argue it's an inventory search. Wanted to super chat that message, but GayTube won't let me. Well, YouTube is really goofy tonight, so don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you on that. Swearing is a spice of language. It is, but I'm just seeing if I could do it tonight without it. So we go on from here, though, and they talk about it. During the intake process, officers determine which items were personally and properly to be returned, and which items are contraband or evidence. So guys, remember, contraband is things you're not allowed to possess. So, for example, a baggie of cocaine or a bag of meth, that's contraband. Might also be evidence, but you're not allowed to possess it. Personal property would be listed on a receipt and inventory form and then stored in a locker. Contraband evidence would be documented, photographed, and placed in envelopes. Overhead cameras as well as body-worn cameras record the searches of the detainee and their property. Officers are not required to write inventory lists simultaneously with the search, but could document the items at a later time. And that's where it gets kind of sketchy because you're like, oh, wow, you could just go back later. And I think one of the lawyers on Twitter had this issue. I've seen it before, too. Like, well, what's the inventory? And the officer, you find out, the next day they went out after the pretrial. It's like, yeah, inventory personal items. No, you should be able to do that pretty much, concurrent as you're doing this thing. So once the defendant was brought to the station, Fry and Homan completed the intake, which involved obtaining his pedigree information, as well as searching his clothing. They collected his layers of clothing, his jewelry, which included a USB drive hanging on a necklace, and some personal items like bus tickets. The USB drive is set aside as evidence, while the personal items were collected in a Lowe's bag. Meanwhile, the female cop showed up with the backpack, as well as a McDonald's bag, which had been given to her. She placed a backpack on a chair in the intake area where they were being processed, and placed the bag on the floor. She began looking through the backpack, opening a compartment she had not searched, and quickly found a handgun. It's like, whoa. After telling about that, they had her move the backpack to another room to continue the search. She took the gun and bag to an adjoining hallway. As she cleared the gun, meaning, she pulled the slide back and inspected it, She discovered it was loaded, and then they placed it in an evidence box. Okay, that part's correct. Hopefully they made it safe. They continue to search the backpack, placing items in separate bags, including items that have been found at McDonald's, such as the microchip, cell phone, and Faraday bag, the knife, and the loaded magazine, as well as items that have been found at the station, including a silencer and a USB drive. At one point, she took the notebook out of the backpack, examined it, and stated it's like a journal. Okay, so she, flipping through it. Okay, is there any obvious evidence in there? And when the one cop says, should we bag it, apparently suggested it should be treated as evidence rather than personal property. And I will give her credit. She's like, I would treat this like evidence. They also state at one point, make sure there's no explosives in there. And after removing the items and placing them in bags, the funny thing is they talk about doing all this, like, let's check for bombs. If you thought that stuff, and I know some of you guys have been in the military, but if you haven't, if you think there's something at all that's a bomb or it's a device, one of the things is don't touch. If you think it's a bomb, the people who do EOD and bomb squad work will tell you, if you think it's a bomb, don't touch it. Let me touch. They're like, that's my job, is to touch a bomb. But you'd be taking that apart very quickly and slowly. You might cut a hole in the side and inspect it. But yeah, you don't shake it, or you just go, oh, is there a bomb in here? Ha! No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you could do that. I wouldn't recommend it. That's what the robot's for. Adam says if it had a lock on it. I mean, there might be times where you might want to get, but I'd say if it's locked, it's just, eventually they'll get a bolt cutter for it, but there's no point. Just, you go ahead and take your time. They should have got some warrants. I don't understand why they didn't get warrants here. I mean, yes, they could claim search and incident to arrest. They could claim inventory exceptions. They could claim a lot of different things. But for something this dire, we think this man is part of a national manhunt for a at the time, front page of every newspaper on every news station, 24-hour news, front top headline for the past couple of days. Why wouldn't you just call the prosecutor and go boop 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 boop? Hey, we're gonna send you a search warrant. We're gonna ask that help us go get a search warrant for this. You know what would happen? The court's going to be like, yeah, you arrested this guy? You think he did it? Okay. And he had all this stuff on him and he had a backpack? You want to search a backpack? All right, here's a search warrant. That would have taken 5 minutes. It wouldn't have taken that long. Remember, guys, these search warrants are plug and play. So they could have got a search warrant done in maybe an hour, if that, and taken care of it. And Fire and Ice says, yeah, you leave it to EOD and let them deal with it. Yeah, you don't touch it. So I don't know why they're messing around here. But we'll keep going. We'll keep going and talk about what they did. The chick cop asked if she should put all this back in, referring to the personal items like a bag of toiletries, batteries, clothing, and mask. An officer agreed that she should, and they placed the items back in the backpack, which, if they're personal items, that kind of makes sense. And they say all of the bag evidence and envelopes as well as the personal property was later transferred to Featherstone, the evidence custodian, because, somebody's got to hold on to all of it. And then by the time he's done, they would give you back your personal crap, and they'd say, have a great day, sir. So meanwhile, the lieutenant spoke with the NYPD detectives, who stated that he was on his way to Altoona and asked that nobody speak with the defendant and requested all of his property be held. Now, here's the thing. Why is that his thing? Well, because technically, as a defendant, you can release your property to certain people. I've had to do this before with clients. They're like, hey, man, in my phone, there's evidence. I'm like, okay, of what? Or I need to get my cell phone. My wife needs it, or my girlfriend needs it. Or it's got that's the one that's got the Cash App and it's got the Venmo and the wife needs that to pay bills with and stuff. Or you get some things released for them. Well, you tell them okay, go ahead and sign some forms saying I'm releasing all property to, Sally Boberson, because Bob's in jail. Bob Boberson goes, I'm Bob Boberson. Sally Sellerson can have all my stuff. including, what's personal property. Remember, these guys don't know the whole story. This detective's coming out saying, stop everything. He said, don't talk to anybody. So you're like, okay, that's great. That's great so far. But, going to Altoona, it's, from New York City. How far is that? That is a, well, chat, that is almost a 5-hour drive. Almost a 5-hour drive. You're like, okay, I get where we're going here. I get where we're going. Now, let's keep going with this. They say Watson returned to the area with the backpack, where it was then removed to the office, so there could be no more room to conduct the search. Now, this is a problem here, okay? At first, the one of the sergeants began photographing items recovered, including the Maryland license, the fake New Jersey license, the wallet, the passport, the gun silencer. He also began photographing loose pieces of paper as well as some of the writings in the notebook. Why are you doing that? That's a very detailed search. They then sent some of the photos of evidence to detectives in New York. I mean, it's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we found a gun. This is the gun we found. Does this look like the gun you guys know? That I get, but there's no way they didn't know about it. They didn't know about the journal. Like, why are we? Like I said, I think that's dumb. And they say because the office became too crowded. Yeah, because everybody wants to see it. They decided to move everything to the roll call room, where now there's more people and interact. In the roll call room, they photographed every item recovered, including every loose piece of paper as well as every page of the notebook. I don't know if that would be legal. I don't know if I had a problem with that. They're particularly careful to photograph where pages appear to have been torn out on the notebook in order to protect against claims of tampering or damage. Well, they packaged and labeled every item and kept a written record of each and every item recovered and photographed. Okay, well, they tried to. And later that day, they prepared an application for a search warrant for all the items recovered, listing the items that have been recovered and describing some of the information that had been found in the red notebook. Now, they added information about the shooting that had been obtained by a, Detective Diaz from New York City. And they would have searched the items, seize the items located during the searches and to arrest and inventory of the property. And they wanted to continue to search the items. So what happened? Well, they went ahead and they got to the DA's office and the warrant was signed by a judge. It's not hard. They could have done this already. Oh, we got a Hella raid. Hi, guys. Hi, Hella people. Yeah, Mario, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Yeah, he says, my bet is the no-get warrant game is about how few fucks they give about the Fourth Amendment because how often judges in the area will tend to let things in. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's kind of normal. A lot of times courts let everything in. Remember, guys, I've said this before. If the courts actually treated the Fourth Amendment like it's supposed to be and suppression like it's supposed to be, the system would fall apart, but they don't. And that's, kind of sucks. It kind of sucks about like that. So, sucks like that. Sorry I made you swear. That's okay. I was just reading it. So, it doesn't count to me. So I talk about his statements. That evening, the defendant was arraigned at the county courthouse on the Pennsylvania charges. On December 10th, he was housed at the local correctional place where he was monitored. The defendant told the CO that he was a software engineer and that he had been arrested at a McDonald's and he had been carrying a backpack. That backpack contained a 3D printed gun and a magazine, as well as a small amount of foreign currency, and that people were accusing him of being a foreign agent. The CO testified that he blurted out all these comments without any questioning from him. Remember, guys, because of Miranda, you have custody and interrogation, but the interrogation can't be, hey, man, would you like to go to the bathroom? What's your name? No, that's all basic information. It's anything attempting to elicit information relating to the offense that he's under arrest for. So that's where it becomes an issue, and that's a case. We talked about a couple different cases here, like Quarles versus New York, where you talk about the guy with the gun at the supermarket, and it's funny because that's how you remember him for these things. Or Enos versus Rhode Island, where they have the guy in the back of the car and they're like, man, it'd be a shame if some kid found that gun and got hurt. And the guy's like, no, wait, I'll tell you what you need to know. I don't buy that. He just volunteered all this information, but okay. On December 16th, Luigi was being monitored by a different CO. He talked about his travels, places he had seen in Vietnam and Thailand. He also talked about people appearing to be happier in third world countries, despite living in poverty. And they also discussed the healthcare system. Now, I think this is funny because it sounds like Luigi's like, hey, man, do you want to talk about praxis? Hello, fellow sir. Would you like to talk about the proletariat? And would you like to talk about, Luxembourgian vanguardism? This is, it's a little interesting here. Phil, how you doing, man? I've been huffing Tesser's enamel clear coat for 2 days. Well, be careful with that stuff. Be careful. Be careful. But it's so funny they talk about this. Rivers could not recall who initiated the conversation, but did give his opinion about private versus public health care. Also, how the media was portraying him, and then he stated he had heard he was being compared to Ted Kaczynski. The defendant also stated he wanted to make a statement to the public. The next day, they spoke about books, including discussing his favorite authors, recommending a book by Aldous Huxley. They also discussed the standard of healthcare among Americans compared to Europeans. Now, we get to the conclusions of law, because these are all the statements. This is all the stuff that happened in Pennsylvania that we're worried about, all these statements. Okay, so what's coming in? Now, you might say, why is this being adjudicated here in New York City? Well, it's because all that evidence is being used here in New York City. So they first start off by saying which state law applies when determining whether a statement should be suppressed. And that's the issue. And remember, this is the thing we talked about. Normally in civil cases is the bigger problem. It's called conflict of laws and choice of law. What law applies? Well, the court just cuts through that very quickly and says, doesn't matter. New York crime for, New York law applies. Under these circumstances, New York's a forum state. New York has a paramount interest in the application of its law. Not a surprise that New York is going to say it's ours. And they point out, guys, you see this first department? That means like the first appellate division. Fourth department means fourth appellate division. So you have you have the Supreme Court, the appellate divisions, and then you have the Court of Appeals, which is the top. Remember, New York is weird. So they say, well, the people argue that Pennsylvania law should apply, followed by, as the police follow Pennsylvania law in good faith. That is not the test under New York law. And in any event, New York does not have a good faith exception to the exclusionary rule. And that's really important, chat, because there are times where cops can get around the warrant requirements. Like a good faith, we didn't think we needed one. Well, guess what? In New York, that is not a thing. That is a very big deal. So, that's actually helpful. That's very based for New York. I wouldn't think they have something like that. I wouldn't think they had something like that, but that's very cool of them to do. It's very cool of them to do. So the people also argue the cases cited by the defense only apply. Remember, this is the state arguing the case cited by Luigi and his team only apply where the defendant claimed violations of another state search and seizure laws. And they say because New York courts will not trouble themselves with asserted violations of other state search and seizure law, which is hilarious. We won't be troubled by it. We're New York. And they point out the court does not believe, however, that those cases can be limited. The courts clearly state that New York has a paramount interest and that suppression issues, procedural issues, and evidentiary issues are governed by the law of the forum state. And that makes sense when you think about it. We're going to have a suppression hearing in New York for a case that's going to be tried in New York under the New York rules of criminal procedure. And we're going to use the New York rules of evidence. So, yeah, it should all be New York law because that makes the most sense. We wouldn't say, the rules of procedure and evidence and every other thing is for New York, but we're going to rely on the suppression issues out of Pennsylvania. Just one work, and we don't want that. We don't want that here. And they say courts do not limit this clear pronouncement, and therefore this court will follow New York law in deciding the issues involved, which I have no problem with. Totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. David from MLS. Hello, David. It's like, don't give them too much credit. They only got one thing right. Well, I think that is a very important thing to discuss, though, because if you're not thinking about that, Well, yeah, gee, how would we do this? And it makes the most sense that way. If you guys have never thought about it, it's not something, it's a very valid question. It's not frivolous at all. So the search incident to arrest. So they talk about here the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, here's the neat thing, guys. Remember, your constitutional amendments are floors. That's the bare minimum you're entitled to. Well, New York case law has interpreted our state constitution providing even broader protections. So what does that mean? Well, there's a couple cases, People versus Goki. They say this provision serves to shield citizens from warrantless intrusions, including their personal effects. And they say to justify a warrantless search, the government must satisfy two requirements. The first imposes spatial and temporal limitations to ensure the search is not divorced in time or place from the arrest, meaning, well, you can't search it like a week from now and like 20 miles away. So they say in the context of searching closed containers incident to arrest, and this becomes the issue because we have closed containers, chat, and I brought that up. A backpack. Remember, they said they had to open it. That's a closed container, even though it's a zipper. It's a closed container. Piece of tape. Guess what? I tape up a box. Is that closed? Remember, we talked about there was that computer chip in there. Is that closed? Is that laptop? Is that closed? Isn't it interesting how that, you have to think about these things. Obviously, somebody mentioned earlier if it was locked. Well, yeah, locked would be closed. There's a lot of different ways you could have a closed container. And they say the people bear the burden of demonstrating the presence of exigent circumstances in order to invoke the exception to the warrant requirement. They say in order to invoke the exigency exception, the property must be within the suspect's immediate control or grabbable area. Now, guys, this case Goki they're citing, this is the New York version of Schimmel. And I mentioned to you before, Schimmel, it's the wingspan thing. And Schimmel v. California is it's Schimmel, Chimel, not SH or SCH. But yeah, guys, this is the case here. Schimmel versus California. It's 1969. This is another big one on the Warren Court. Okay. But anyways, Schimmel versus California, if you guys want this information here. But anyways, Schimmel talks about this. If it's within your immediate control, the grabbable area, your wingspan. Like if I have a shotgun, like right here, I've got this curtain, and we can look at the, we'll bring up the camera here real quick. We can bring up our camera. Wrong way. Look how close I am to the wall. I can touch the wall from here. Now, I can't touch back there, but right here, I can touch the wall. If I have something behind this, I could put like a gun right back there. So if the cops come into the room, I could, and now I've got a gun. So there are things you can do, and that's why we have these rules. The cops are able to get away with searching the immediate area where I'm at to figure out like where their weapons are. And in Schimmel's case, that's what they did. And they say under those circumstances, you do it for the safety of the public and the arresting officer and the protection of evidence from destruction or concealment. Because I could also take like a bag of Coke and shove it, in my pants. Or I could, light something on fire. Or I could hit like delete. I could take the computer and go like delete. And guess what? They're allowed to stop that. They say even in a bag within the area at the time of the arrest may not be subject to warrantless search unless the circumstances support a belief the suspect may gain possession of a weapon or be able to destroy the evidence in the bag. Remember, it's like 9 feet away, and then after a while, Luigi is now handcuffed. He's not getting to it. They see here the backpack was not within the defendant's immediate control or grabbable area at the time of the arrest or search. The lieutenant moved the backpack away of his reach shortly after he arrived, and while a number of officers stood around, they considered him detained. A short while later, they moved the backpack to a table about 9 feet away. Remember, that's important. The judge cites those things in his facts to justify later what he's trying to argue. They continue to surround him. And once he was arrested for false identification, he was handcuffed and remained surrounded. The lieutenant was not concerned the defendant could reach the bag. They were all unconcerned. They said that he was surrounded by cops who had good body positioning. And remember, this guy is just sitting here. They're not going to get around. Like, let's say you're inventorying the bag. How's he going to get to it? How's he going to get to it? He's not going, where are you going? Nowhere. You are going nowhere. So that is critical. That is critical here. He was also cooperative and was described as compliant and not combative. That's another thing. Is he trying to get out of his handcuffs? Is he won't stay still? Is he shoving into people? There's no resistance to the frisk or the placing of the handcuffs. So at this point, the backpack was not in his control. The backpack was within the exclusive control of the cops. And because of, that being under complete control is a bit of an issue. And they say even if the backpack could be seen as within his control or grabbable area, the people didn't meet the burden anyway. The government asserts that they were merely searching for explosives in an effort to protect themselves before removing the backpack. However, the justification for searching the backpack does not hold up to scrutiny. These actions were inconsistent with performing a safety search. The area where the search happened was open to the public and employees, both of whom walked by it. In the case of employees, to gain access to storage closets. And they say a search for a bomb is inconsistent. And moreover, they quit searching once they found a loaded magazine. And once they found it, said, let's just take it back. You're like, okay, yeah, because if they really thought it was, they would search the whole thing, make sure there's no bomb in there. But also, if they really thought there was a bomb, why wouldn't you take it outside? Because if you set the bomb off at McDonald's, I mean, maybe these guys secretly like Burger King. I don't know. Well, they point out that they left compartments unopened and untouched. If it was a bomb search, it's not a valid bomb search. They say a search for explosives would be inconsistent with examining small items where a bomb is unlikely to be found, such as the wallet or the opening of the cardboard sleeve. Yeah. Where would you find a bomb? Not there. So they didn't meet the exigent circumstances. But they argue opening the backpack was justified because officers had a belief the bag contained an operable gun. And it says, while the body-worn cameras show that officers did express concern the backpack might contain a bomb, there was no evidence a gun was a concern or that it was the basis for the search. But even if it were legitimate, there's no possibility that Luigi could have grabbed the gun from the backpack. Nor can it be that whenever a gun is alleged to have been used, that cops may conduct a warrantless search of a closed container without a reasonable belief the safety of the officers is threatened. Because as that would happen, that would run afoul of the Fourth Amendment. Like, if we think there's a gun, we can just open whatever we want. No. You have to have exigency for that. It would run afoul of all of our jurisprudence and eviscerate the grabbable area doctrine. So therefore, the search of the backpack at the McDonald's must be suppressed, including the magazine, cell phone, passport, wallet, and computer chip, which the footnote here, and it says, notice the red notebook will not be suppressed as officers do not open or search it at the McDonald's, which is kind of a big deal. Remember, they did it at the police station, but even then, I think they probably should have got a warrant first before they touched it. So Luigi's partially won here. So what do we know? Like the magazine, the cell phone, the passport, and the wallet. Okay, those are suppressed, but what are some of the big things that are missing here for Luigi at this point? The gun, the suppressor. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's still in play. I mean, we still have video of him walking up to a guy going, bop, bop, bop. Those are massive, massive problems. Massive problems for this guy. So Luigi's still got a ton of problems. Luigi still has a lot of problems here. Let's talk about inventory searches. It's designed to properly catalog contents of the item search and must be conducted according to a familiar routine procedure. And that's the thing. You have to have procedures for this. It must not be a general rummaging in order to find incriminating evidence, which Florida v. Wells is another search case involving inventories and things. Bertine was in the 80s. South Dakota versus Opperman was like in the 70s, or like the 70s. So we've had a couple of them. So Inventory searches must be designed to protect the property and protect the police from any claim of lost property and protect the police and others from dangerous instruments. And it says reasonable regulations, notice you have to have regulations and policy. They must be administered in good faith to satisfy the Fourth Amendment. And here's the thing, minor deviations don't invalidate an inventory search. And they say, clearly, the Altoona police had an established inventory search protocol that met the three objectives and sufficiently limited discretion of the searching officers. And it says the government also demonstrated that the officers conducted the search properly and within their compliance procedures. Now, how would you say it's done in procedure? Well, you would say, well, we have all these things. Here's how we look at them. Here's how we do it. Now, also, they would have, you could bring in the command staff because not only, you don't necessarily need the training officers, but remember, if you're a cop, your stuff is going to get examined. Your body cams get examined routinely. And as part of that happens, guess what? Your lieutenant's going to say, yeah, he did a good job. They searched it the right way they wanted. It's all perfectly. Yeah, Mark Furman died. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a little bit here for a second. And they point out that first he was brought to the intake area and searched and processed. After they got to the police station, they put the backpack down, and then the property should be searched in his presence. Also, they point out here real quick, guys. They say CUS versus Mangione, which is his thing later, and they say, the search of the backpack was consistent with written regulations and standard and practice for an inventory search. So the federal court, Luigi's toast. And they say once she found the guns, they moved it to a backpack to a separate area. And the search be moved out of the presence if a weapon is recovered. And once they moved it, she continued to sift through it, placing items into the backpack and putting other items in manila envelopes, including the items found at McDonald's, as well as the other things. They say this is also consistent with protocol. And they separate personal items from evidence. All the items were moved to the office so there could be more room to complete the inventory. And they say this initial search complied with procedures to be a valid search. They say, nor does the effort to separate render the search unlawful. I mean, that's, they point out that one of the requirements of a search is to remove any contraband. Well, that doesn't mean it's invalid. Now, here's the thing. While they didn't prepare a written list of the items, policies do not require documentation to be simultaneous with the search, but it should be. And all items were documented once they were moved to the office in the larger area of the roll call room. I mean, but that's a little different. As you're finding, that's not a problem for me. Hey, we're organizing stuff. If it's 3 days later, I wrote out an inventory, that's where I think there's a problem. Even a day later, that's a problem. But in the temporal, we're working on it, as much as I'd like to say, oh my God, that's wrong, I don't have any, I get laughed out of court for trying to make that argument, but I wouldn't expect the court to buy that argument if I made it. I wouldn't expect them to buy that argument if I made it. So they say minor deviations don't invalidate a search, and courts have upheld inventory searches when there is a delay in documentation. An 11-hour delay in preparing the list. That's probably as much as you'd want, though. They say once the items were moved and then to the roll call room, they were meticulously documented. They placed each item in an envelope, labeled the envelope, and kept written list. They then photographed each item, including each loose piece of paper and each page of the notebook. And they say it's clear they had an established inventory search protocol, and the protocol was followed, and the search produced the hallmark of an inventory search, a meaningful inventory list. And you might say, well, is the court being cheeky about that? Kind of, but it's yes, you actually did. You did the thing. You did the thing we wanted. And as noted above, any deviations do not invalidate the search. Therefore, the people met their burden of establishing this was a valid inventory search. Now, Luigi's saying that brief examination of the notebook, as well as photographing the pages, were an unlawful inventory search. And here's where I think the court is wrong. The court disagrees, finding the cataloging was a valid part of the inventory search. Nor does the evidence suggest the purpose of examining the book was investigative, rather than conducting an inventory. The officers photographed every single page demonstrates that the purpose was to catalog rather than investigate, and they were careful to document every page of the notebook to protect against claims of tampering. Yeah, but I think you could have, you don't have to take a picture of everything. You have your body cam on, you could like hold it up and go like, take it like, just flip through the pages. Like, look, a bunch of them are ripped out. Page through it and be like, look, this one's ripped out. This one's ripped out. This one's ripped out. Not go, click. Oh, that's perfect definition. Click. Like, I think this is a little, they should have got a warrant for this. So, yeah. Anyways, so they got the Pennsylvania search warrant. So what do they argue here? Well, the government argues the search warrant for the backpack obtained at the end of the day after the searching inventories provides an independent source for the evidence, guys. And remember, there are multiple exceptions at that point too. Inevitable discovery, an independent source. So inevitable discovery, they were going to find it anyway, an independent source. If, for example, I arrest Ian Runkle and I'm asking him to tell me where the information is, tell me where the guns are hidden, and he won't tell me. Okay, well, in the meantime, we arrest Kurt from Uncivil Law. And we talk to Kurt. Kurt's like, oh, yeah, I know where they're at. And it's like right here. Okay, well, even if Ian's statements are taken in violation of Miranda, he's going to say, well, suppress the guns because he's going to get charged with them. And I'm going to say, no, I found an independent source. So I don't need you. Even though I violated your rights and I didn't have a warrant for things, Kurt was an independent source for that information. So, tell me where the poutine is. Where is your poutine? The McGriddles that got away. Ew, it's really nasty. It's too rich for me. You might say, really? As a big fat guy? Yes. 2.0 likes McGriddles, though. McMuffins all day long. McMuffins all day long. Over McGriddles. They say, however, the presence of an independent source does not automatically immunize an initial warrantless search. And that's correct. And they say that, a search warrant was based on information obtained prior to an independent of an illegal entry. A phone search without a warrant, but police already had probable cause based on the statements to police and were the basis for the warrant. They say the police relied partly on the evidence itself recovered from the backpack and information given to the NYPD after the searches had occurred. Therefore, there is no independent source. And to apply it in these circumstances would improperly vitiate the warrant requirement. Yeah. So they can't use that here. And then it makes sense because only after they used all the information they illegally obtained from the backpack were they able to get more information. Remember, an independent source has to be completely divested from what you've done so far. And if you get an independent source, it's really got to be independent. Not, oh, we did all this and we talked to the detective in New York City. That doesn't count because you're using fruit of the poisonous tree. So they talk about its statements to law enforcement. Okay, so how does this work? Well, any statement given freely and voluntarily without any compelling influences is admissible. Citing Miranda. And they say volunteered statements are not barred by the Fifth Amendment. Miranda doesn't come into play. And only when you're in custody, you're subjected to either express questioning or its functional equivalent. And as I stated, chat, Rhode Island versus Innis is the case. That's the Supreme Court one that goes through this. So as I told you guys, it's fun to remember all this stuff. They point out to determine the admissibility of a statement without Miranda, a court must determine whether the person was in custody and whether police questioning constitute interrogation. To determine custody, a reasonable person innocent of any wrongdoing would have not believed that he or she was free to leave. Well, once again, we talk about this here. Would you have been free to leave at any point? Well, once they have your ID, I would argue you're not. But remember, at this point, would you think you're free to leave? Even if you're not handcuffed. Are you free to leave right now? No. Even as two cops, I'd argue I wouldn't feel free to leave. But hey. And then second, has there been a forcible seizure which curtails a freedom of action to the degree associated with a formal arrest? And yes, interrogation is defined as any question that's likely to elicit an incriminating response. That's also out of Rhode Island versus Innis. And they talk about the initial interaction for, about 15 minutes. I find the defendant was not in custody. Only 2 or 3 officers approached or spoke with him. The interaction occurred in public, which is a big factor. Are you in an area? Are the doors locked? Are you in public? Well, McDonald's is public. The defendant was eating breakfast, and there was no indicia of custody. I mean, except for the fact his ID has been taken away from him. He can't just leave. If he tried to leave, they'd tackle him. Like, if he got up, they'd tell him, sit down. This is a little sketchy here. But they point out there are other factors that don't support my argument. They didn't have their guns out. Yeah, if they're sitting there, they're like, stop. Well, you're detained. You're not free to go. Or if they're holding their guns, or if one of the cops holding his taser and it's like, woo, and it's warmed up. Did they handcuff him? Did they engage in conduct that a reasonable person would conclude he's not free to leave? Well, and it says, therefore, any statements made during this period will not be suppressed. And they point out here that, there are things like his name, address, and date of birth would be admissible in any event because it's your basic information. They call it pedigree information. That's the thing. They're allowed to ask you who you are and where you're from. And real quick here, we're going to get to John Coleman, or Racon, sorry. Racon for $2. Thank you. Says for the swear jar. Well, thank you. VTubing enthusiast for $10. Says, I want people to understand something. Luigi wasn't a far left winger. In his diary and social media posts, he had some choice words about third world immigrants and non-whites. BreadTube just doesn't like CEOs. That is correct. Thank you, VTube enthusiast, for $10. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, it was just an opportunity to get somebody killed there, so. Erica the K says, why are you moving? Yeah, I got to sign up for the bar in Florida, and I'll do that coming up, but for right now, I'm not doing it. Not till February. Best luck to you in 2.0. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think this is Timet CT saying, if any question designed to elicit an incriminating response is interrogation, how can cops conduct traffic stops without Mirandizing? It's an overbroad definition. I mean, it's because traffic stops are different and the courts consider it differently. But also, technically, you're being stopped, but you're not in custody. But yes, you can't just freely, nobody thinks they can ever leave. But ultimately, you can refuse to answer those questions, and that's why I would recommend you do it. So, Eric says, law tube until February. I mean, I'll be able to do work here in Ohio, and I'll see if there's any way I can do some, I don't know if there's any law firms or anybody down there looking for people who can do work for them, under their supervision, if they need writing done or whatever. And I don't know, figure something out. We'll figure something out. But yeah, we got a couple game plans. But yeah, we'll be covering trials and stuff as we go here. Now, they point out here, they say the analysis is different, though. However, once more than 8 officers arrived at the scene and surrounded him. Well, yeah, you're not free to go at that point. They positioned themselves in a manner that encircled him and controlled the immediate area, creating a police-dominated atmosphere. It restricted his freedom of movement. And they say, under the totality, the court finds established by video evidence that by about 9:47, Luigi was in custody. Therefore, response is given that were interrogation or the functional equivalent, including why he lied about his name, asking also why he lied, and asking if he had a fake ID are going to be suppressed. Now, those are critical to Luigi because why do people lie? Because they're guilty. Consciousness of guilt. They say, however, the responses to the initial questions about his real name, date of birth, and his middle initial will not be suppressed as they're admissible as pedigree information. Now, that's the thing here. The cops or the judge is saying, on one hand, it's okay. Because not necessarily, he could say, well, he gave us these bullshit names, but, oh, damn it, I messed up. And he gave these bad names, but when they asked him later, why did you do it? That's what's not being allowed here. And you're like, okay, but Is this kind of like the judge taking the chicken way out here? Is this kind of garbage the way he's splitting the difference here? I mean, yeah, in a way it kind of is, but you know what? Not a lot we can do. Not a whole lot we can do here on that. Because he's suppressing some of it. They say after Luigi was given Miranda warnings at 9:48, he shook his head and asked again why he had a fake ID. Luigi responded he was going to remain silent. Those responses, of course, are not admissible. And they point out that his response to the question about whether there's something in the bag, just going to remain silent, is not admissible. That's correct. You can't comment on the silence. They said there are additional questions the officer's saying, calling a couple more cars. And this is a puffy jacket. I'm not very big. And can I ask why there's so many cops here? Will not be suppressed as they're spontaneous and not response to police questioning. So that's why he's like, well, I got a big jacket on. Well, we didn't ask you about that. However, his responses to being asked to stand up for a frisk if he had weapons on him and responses to the follow-up questions about the pocket knife are all admissible as responses to safety concerns and related questions, which is garbage, I think. Further responses to questions from Fox about his name and McCoy about where he's from and about his age are all admissible as pedigree information. He also made statements to the two corrections officers, who are monitoring him. And they say, I find them to be credible witnesses. All right. And the testimony was uncontroverted that he did not ask any questions or attempt to elicit information. I find those statements to be spontaneous and therefore admissible. And you might say, well, wait, he already was given his Miranda rights. Yes, he was, but Miranda only works after a while. You can after a while, you have to keep, this situation, he would probably have to be re-Mirandized. He's now at a correctional facility. At some point, if the cops interacted with him again, at some point, they would have to, you kind of have to re-Mirandize people in those situations. It can't just be like, well, you say it once and then it's good forever. It doesn't work that way. And they say the officer and the other guy, they engaged in casual conversation on various subjects. Again, his statements were not made in response to questioning interrogation. I find those statements to be admissible. This constitutes a decision in order of the court. So, yeah, Luigi got a couple of wins, but these aren't that big for him. I know people are super stoked that he got some wins here, but I'm like, this isn't getting you what you think you're getting here. And I just think it's very funny. The people out here that are treating this like it's a monster dub. And it's but it's not. Did he get some good things out of it? This is a great example. It's good, but the gun's still in. The suppressor's still in. The notebook's in. I mean, the biggest thing at the end of the day is they got the gun. I mean, that is the one thing. Yeah, the people got the gun, which is huge. Yeah. Yep. And I there's no way around that. And even then, I think if you could suppress the gun, even if the gun got suppressed, I don't think that kills their case. I mean, a lot of people in the jury are going to say, well, where's the gun at? But at the end of the day, we have video of him going, and we can track the Mark Rosario guy all around. So it doesn't really hurt too much. It doesn't really hurt. It's not, if they got the gun suppressed, that'd be really bad. But it doesn't make their case fatal. It's not a fatal flaw. But it is important. It's important to recognize that some stuff out of there. I think the judge did enough to make it look like he gave it a good go and looks fair enough to immunize against appeal. Yeah, it's kind of get what I'm getting at too. There's a lot here that Luigi and all these people are like, yay, things got suppressed. The stuff that doesn't matter. The loaded magazine doesn't matter. The computer chip doesn't matter. The pocket knife doesn't matter. The passport, the wallet, those things that don't matter because guess what's still in? The gun. The stuff we don't want. Yeah, is he going to prison? Yeah, I don't see how he wins on this. Did I just read your super chat? Yes. Yes. BreadTube just doesn't like CEOs. Yes. And thank you for your super chat. Thank you. Yes, we did. Let's see here. What did I miss? Sweet Tooth Fairy, bring up a good question. Is Miranda a federal statute or there's state statute to come into play? Miranda is not a state statute. Miranda is Miranda v. Arizona. That is a Supreme Court case law. That is Supreme Court case law that regards the Fourth Amendment. So you're dealing with constitutional issues. So, your Fourth Amendment and your Fifth Amendment rights, Constitution, uber alles, supremacy clause. There's no like it's at the top. So it's not now. Different states may give you enhanced things. So, for example, your state may give you a more enhanced version and greater protections. Miranda is the bare minimum protection you're entitled to. Some states may give you more. Some states may just do Miranda. But it's not necessarily a statute. But, for example, if you read Miranda, when the court's talking about it, and I think I mentioned this before, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, actually has quite a few civil liberty protections that we take for granted now, but the military had at the time of Miranda. They already had a Miranda warning. They already had a functional equivalent in the military. They had different requirements of right to counsel. There's a lot of things the UCMJ had. So in some situations, it is like a statute, but more or less, it's all governed by the Supreme Court case law there. I hope that answers your question. Good question. Black Knight says, do people know Miranda died in a bar fight? Yes, I think I mentioned that. He died in a bar fight. Guy stabbed him to death. And then when they arrested him, the guy asserted his Miranda rights. Have I ever found a judge that didn't believe the police? Generally, no. Sometimes they won't, but like, you've got to be really, really, really like not careful. Like, that's the interesting part of it. So, yeah, like he got some wins here, but it's like it's not that big a deal. Like, how big is this win? Not really. Like, it's like you're down by 40 points, and then they put in the second string. Like you're playing the New England Patriots, and you're down by 40 points, so they put in like the practice squad, and you happen to score a touchdown against a practice squad. It's like, yay, but it's a practice squad, so you're still down by now 34 points with 2 minutes to go. Buckmaster said, I thought the gun was suppressed. At least it looks like in the video. No, because the gun was not found until they got to the police station. Now, obviously, when you open up, if you're digging through a backpack and you open up a towel, and inside the towel is a loaded pistol magazine, I think it's fair to say we would all agree, gee, I bet there's a gun in there. And, you're not probably going to be wrong. So, yeah. I missed the joke here. Did I miss the joke? I'm sorry. I missed the joke. Oh, it's a silencer joke. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. So yeah, this is not a big deal. Although when you're on Twitter, it's very funny to see the people who are like, "Oh my God, this is the best day ever! The best day ever!" But it's not. It's not the best day ever. It's not the best day ever here. It's not at all. It's not the best day ever. It's good, but like getting punched in the face is better than getting punched in the balls, but you're still getting punched in the face. So it's like, you're not really getting anything good here. And this is actually a pretty good example of it. And this is a thing called brace yourselves, chat. It's called Power to the People. They've got the hammer and sickle and the dove. Proud socialist, independent socialist voice for a better world. Follow him on Amped Up. He has 454,000 followers. And it's funny, he's a socialist, but I guarantee you he gets paid by frickin' Elon. So Does this say if he's verified or not? Let's see here. He's been verified. Does he have premium? We don't know. That'd be hilarious if he did. So now this is interesting the way this is phrased. In a win for Luigi, the judge rules the cops conducted a legal search and seizure filing his Fourth Amendment rights and they have a search warrant. Partially correct. All items found in Luigi's backpack will not be allowed. Not true at all. Completely incorrect. Some. And most importantly, not the biggest one. The judge is allowing the gun to be used at trial since cops claim they didn't find the gun until they got back to the station, which that immediately refutes and contradicts your sentence proceeding. This has always been the most suspicious part of the case because how the cops missed the gun. They didn't miss the gun. They're like, oh, God, we'd better stop. Because that's, I think if you were going to ask those cops honestly, including the sergeant, once they found like the pistol magazine inside the backpack, I'm sure he's like, oh, shit, there's a gun in there. Don't open it up here. God, we're going to ruin this. Smart enough not to say that on body cam, though. The cops could have easily planted the gun in Luigi's backpack on their way to the station, which is what Luigi's lawyer should argue. That's not how that's going to work, though. That's not how it's going to work because ultimately, the problem for Luigi is he's on video using a gun. Like, they're going to be able to say, like, this Mark Rosario guy was doing this and we're tracking him. Well, guess who called himself Mark Rosario? Luigi. So we've got the guy on camera going like this. Well, I don't like... the cops planted that gun. He had a gun and he got rid of it, but the cops planted one back on him. It's like... So he used the gun to start with. You don't get... Rabbit Stick says, did the cops ask at any point if they could look in the bag? No, but I think they said, is there anything in there that's going to hurt us or we need to know about? But yes, they could have asked, but I think that, they probably forgot to do that. Now, that is what happened here. So what does this ultimately mean right now? So here is, and this is, I'm kind of cheating on this because I hate using it when there's like all kind of a, writing down below. So what are we looking at here? These three things are all coming in. So we've got a bunch of stuff coming in. God dang it. I hate it when it does this. I hate because it's all crap I'm trying to help you guys see here. So what's going in? So the gun's coming in. Check. The notebook is coming in. Death Note. The suppressor coming in to check. Is this magazine coming in? Nope. That's actually kind of erased off the picture. And then, yep, here he is, America's sweetheart, murderer, killer guy. So, that's the thing here. Like these big things you don't want that really hurt your case. Are still there. And that's not the best. It's not the best. It's all they really needed. Like they got what they wanted. And I don't know. Like it could have been better if they got it. Like sure, if they got everything, would that have been better? Yeah, I guess would have been better. But hey, that's not what happened. That's not what happened tonight. So, what about the bullets? Were there any extra bullets? I don't think so. I think it was just the magazine sitting in the towel. Is that my favorite Twitter account? Yeah, it probably was. But yes, getting back to this rabbit stick, yes, consent is always an exception to the warrant requirement. You don't need a warrant. I'll let you look. It's but I think they knew better and waste time asking. Adam says, why would they want the notebook? I'm sure he talks about what he's going to do, and he's writing, I'm going to kill Brian. I bet he's written things in there like, I want to kill this man, and he started doing a little bit of a, putting together a little bit of an order on this guy and a workup on Brian Thompson. Maybe there's a bunch of stuff in there about him and tracking his movements and putting it together. We don't really know yet. We don't know for sure what's in there, but I'm sure that there's some evidence in there that's very, very, very inculpatory towards Luigi. Very, very bad. If he wrote on the bullets, he probably wrote in the book. Oh, yeah. I guarantee you he did. I guarantee you he probably wrote something like, die, 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 die. Sure, but I'm also betting you right, I'm going to kill this guy. Ha! Yay, long live the revolution. Yeah, if he's writing on the bullet casings, he's writing on everything. And Johan for $2 says, "How is this Rico, Sean?" Well, you'll learn. You'll learn one day. What about the timeline, Sean? The timeline's pretty locked down on this. Timeline's pretty locked down. And this is the interesting part about Luigi. This is like these people are getting crazy out here for Luigi. There are some out in front of Luigi's hearings. These people are like mental people. Like these people are insano, and like they're just. You're gonna watch this. This is a person who came out, and they're part of the Luigi fan club. They're like, "We love Luigi, ooh woo."
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad.
They're talking about Brian Thompson saying your kids are better off without him.
And enjoy the blood money, kids.
What was that? I didn't get that, what you said.
I'm standing on business. Fuck Brian Thompson. I don't give a flying fuck about it. Millions of Americans.
Sorry.
Millions of Americans suffer every single decision. I said what I said. I don't give a flying fuck.
His children are better off without him. They need to learn to not be like their dad and enjoy the blood money, kids.
What was that? I didn't get that, what you said.
I'm standing on business. Fuck Brian Thompson. I don't give a flying fuck about it. Millions of Americans.
I liked it.
Millions of Americans suffer every single day from the lack of negligence when it comes to medical health care. We had a literal infant named Zelle who, because of how negligent her health insurance was, she died. An infant died. So if you guys are okay with someone like Brian Thompson being around and that being a part of our society, that says more about you as a person, because you look absolutely monstrous defending someone like that. Participates in social murder. That's what we
mass social murder. He's responsible for more deaths than Osama bin Laden. And I remember Americans celebrating when Osama bin Laden was killed. It's not like we don't understand heroic violence or like when violence is good. That's like as America gets.
I mean, why do we protect the Second Amendment so much? Is it to allow people to shoot up schools, or is it for us to protect our democracy? I think it's to protect our democracy. I'm not saying, we should all take up arms, but when your democracy is eroded and there's no other option, like, what are we meant to do?
I mean, there you go. Like these people are just absolutely mental. Yes, they are femoids, so they are. But this is where this is only going to turn into a bigger circus, guys. Just wanted to give you a little bit of interesting things there from that. Yes, protect the Second Amendment, unintentionally based. Yeah, but not necessarily like you're thinking. Not like you're thinking. Not like you're thinking here. But yeah, that's those are basically the Manson girls, kind of like that, yeah. Well, remember, people like chasing for clout. Clout is a big thing in this world. Clout is important, so anybody can get clout. Like, there's a lot of people who are obsessed with getting clout. Are these women really down for the struggle? I don't know. Are they just wanting clout? Possibly. Wouldn't be the first time. It's like, do you really think people would do that? Chase around for clout on the internet? It's like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I blame John Stuart Mill. So, but they're praising Luigi for killing the guy, but also saying he's innocent. Yeah, they're basically saying he's justified in what he did. And he's kind of like how we make the joke communists aren't people. They make the joke that like people like Brian Thompson don't count as people, and you can just kill them and injure them because they don't count as people in their book. So that's literally what they think. That's what they think here. I'm gonna name my next pup your next dog, Clout. That's hilarious. You know, just running down the street chasing Clout everywhere you go. That's so funny. That's so funny. So, oh. So, where did my Clout go? Yes. Where are these parties at? New York City, yes. This is all happening in downtown Manhattan. I live in Atlantic City. Well, you're a brave man. You're a brave man living in AC. I may take a trip up there with a few friends to schmooze some of these e-girls. Don't go tar jousting and touching the poo. And real quick, we have a CLOOUT. We have a Clout Tower. Streaming Clout into the ether is very funny. Yes. Have you seen my Clout? Am I going to go to the vice principal in Virginia's criminal trial? Are you talking about the lady who her kid shot the teacher? So I think that just started, but I'm not sure what you're talking about, Stacy. So maybe. I'm not sure which one you're doing. It's the Clout in the room with us now. Jeez, this temperature change killed me. It was like 85 today and yesterday, but it's like, dang. Your daughter almost got on the jury. Cool. So ultimately, guys, this is not the win everybody needs it to be if you're Luigi. And from here, this was mentioned today. Some people talked about it. Mark Furman, who was, one who basically came to national fame during the O.J. Simpson trial. You might say, if you guys remember watching the People versus O.J. Simpson, yes, this guy, Mark Furman. And what happened to Mark Furman? Well, Mark Furman was a cop in the LAPD, and he was very critical. He was a big part of the case. What did he find? He found a bloody glove. He found a bloody glove recovered at OJ's house. And what did they do? Well, Mark Furman had given an interview to some movie writers. And he was talking about just dropping, you guys, if you haven't heard the tapes, listen to him. N-word, 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 N-word. All the things he would do. And he was asked on the stand, and this is where, if you guys remember Nathan Lane playing F. Lee Bailey, built up this pile of shot glass and said, this is his tombstone. I'm going to kill him with the N-word. And F. Lee Bailey, it's 100%, it's a thing. It is a 100% thing that happened, chat. He in open court, remember, those are the times where you can do this stuff. There are the times where you can do this. And it happens. It happens. And hold on here, guys. What is... Hold on here. Why am I... Oh, wow, that's interesting. YouTube's like, oh, somebody may have used your stuff. It's like, nobody's using my crap. Nobody... Videos may be using my content. Like, who? Like, YouTube's like, so, Sean, be worried. It's like, no. That never happens. But anyways, this is the interesting thing here. This is F. Lee Bailey versus Mark Furman. And this is it. This is the big thing here. If you guys don't know, this is where it starts. Now, this is where it starts. If you guys have seen the People versus O.J. Simpson, this is Nathan Lane pretending to be him. So here we go.
Use the word nigger.
No, sir. I do not use that word to describe people.
Have you ever used the word nigger in the past 10 years?
Not that I recall, no.
You mean
This came out of nowhere. Everybody's like, what? I mean, like I told you guys, it's one thing when it's one thing when a witness or somebody said it. But this came out of nowhere.
I mean, if you called someone a nigger, you have forgotten it?
I'm not sure I can answer the question the way that you phrased it, sir.
Let me put it simply. Are you saying under oath that you have not addressed any black person as a nigger or spoken about black people as niggers in the past 10 years, Detective Furman?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh my God, this is insane.
Can you say the word nigger on TV?
So that anyone who comes to this court and quotes you as using that word in dealing with African Americans would be a liar, would they not, Detective Furman?
Yes, they would.
All of them, correct?
All of them.
Thank you. No further questions.
That right there, guys, that's the trap. And the trap got set. And here we go.
All right, right at the top, please. Begin, dear Mr. Cochran. All right. My understanding is, Detective Furman, you have never held in your hand a piece of paper on which these words are written. You've only discussed it.
That's correct.
Now, you notice in the second paragraph, it says that the author glanced up at the television and was quite shocked to see that Officer Furman was a man that I had the misfortune of meeting. You were on television prior to this summer in connection with this case, were you not?
Yes.
And your testimony as a witness, you learned, was quite widely watched in this state and others, did you not?
Yes.
You notice that the author says that she has left a message on Mr. Cochran's answering service.
Yes.
Okay. Next paragraph, Mr. Harris.
Small shopping area?
Yeah.
Not that I remember, no.
You know, cause your investigator, Mr. Pelicano, to do that. That was the truth. Correct?
I think this is it, chat.
Did you say, while in the recruiting station at any time during those years, that when you see a nigger driving with a white woman, you pull them over?
No.
Do you recall anyone asking you, if you didn't have a reason to pull them over, what would you do?
I don't recall anybody ever asking me that question, sir.
Did you ever make the statement that if you needed a reason, you would find one?
No.
Okay. Next paragraph. Did you say at any time in that recruiting station, in the presence of any female, including Kathleen Bell, that you would like nothing more than to see all niggers gathered together and killed?
No.
Are you aware, bottom of the page, of any complaint that was brought to the LAPD by this individual?
I'm not aware of any investigation, no.
But you are aware that she has appeared on public television and made essentially these same claims, correct?
Yes, this is like the one cop Kiwi Farms loves.
Yes.
Have you started any lawsuits against her?
No.
Have you brought claim against her for defamation?
No.
And see, this is, you guys, this goes a little further in depth. So they said this about you. Are you challenging it under defamation? No. Well, is it defamation then, Mr. Furman? Why aren't you stopping this person? Wouldn't you agree you should stop the people who defame you? Why aren't you doing that? This is F. Lee Bailey's entire cross-examination of Mark Furman was, like, to be fair, everybody's job was great. You know, Robert Shapiro did a great job. Johnny Cochran did a great job. Barry Schenck did a great job. F. Lee Bailey did a great job. Like, this was like F. Lee Bailey's like fucking. Damn it, I did. This was F. Lee Bailey's like career performance.
See? All right. You told us yesterday that you do not know, as I understand it, an Andrea Terry.
That's correct.
Can you recall at any time a blonde woman suggesting that she had an attractive but tall friend?
No.
You recall at any time in the presence of Joe Foss being asked by a woman if you were interested in a date?
No.
That never happened that you can recall?
No.
Is it the kind of thing that you would remember if it had occurred, being asked for a date in the presence of Joe Foss?
I think in the presence of anybody, if I was interested in the woman or it went farther than that, I think I would probably remember it.
Let's assume you weren't interested. Said, hey, you're not my type. Brushed her off. Would you remember being invited on a date?
So there you go, chat. If you didn't know, and then here's a picture of Mark Furman. Interestingly enough, Alan Dershowitz too, yes. You can't forget about Dersh. It was a great way to trap somebody into perjury. Were you still actively practicing law at this time, or are you still in school? It was 1995. I was 10 years old. So no, I was not a lawyer then. And yes, Alan Dershowitz, yes, Dersh did a great job here too. But Dershowitz was mainly at like, he was at Harvard teaching the whole time. This is the only guy who ever was convicted of a crime relating to the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. This is the only guy who was ever convicted of any crime. And he was convicted of perjury. They charged him with perjury. He ended up pleading out. He got probation and a fine, and obviously he can't be a cop anymore. And that was it for him. And that's what happened to him. He did get his charges expunged, but that was it for him. That was it. That's all he did. I mean, he started doing like, he thinks there were all kinds of things that was done wrong in the case, but ultimately, there wasn't a whole lot for him. He became like a Fox News contributor and stuff, and did his own TV shows, and yeah. He became an author as well. Moist Nut says that's informative. Yeah. Did he write a book? Yeah, he wrote a book. It was called Murder in Brentwood. And he had a bunch of critiques about what happened. He thinks that there were different things that the cases were, he thinks it was flimsy, but he had no choice to plead no contest because he couldn't afford to defend himself. But it's like, and the police were not willing to pay for him. Well, yeah, no, you committed perjury, buddy. That's why they asked him about the 10-year things. They're nailing him down all the way. And that's the thing, guys. If you're ever on the stand and like something like that starts happening, well, are you sure you haven't done this? Yes. And how about this? How about this? How about this? How about this? And how about this? And they're really trying to nail you down every way possible. You shouldn't just go, no. You should be like, that should give you cause to think about what's going on and really think. Because they're asking all these questions, they probably know the answer, and you don't want to find out like that. Yes. It was DuckTales, yep. Or Tailspin. It was also on back then. But yeah, he's the only guy who was ever convicted out of the whole entire thing. I don't recall. Well, you got to be careful about that. I wouldn't tell you to say that. Yeah, the LAPD wanted him gone. He sued them years before he was a problem. Yeah, Garville, yes. Furman had a lot of problems. He had a lot of police, brutality cases against him. Wasn't considered like the best guy in the world. Wasn't well liked. I mean, it's not a surprise that happened to him this way. But yeah, that's kind of the end thing there. Yes, there was Darkwing Duck. Yep, I remember him. Let's get dangerous. My eyes look old. No offense. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a while. We've been busy. So, also, I think it goes away if I look up. But I don't know. 1995 was a great year. He was well spoken. Yeah, he was very well spoken. But yeah, and that's the other thing too. Is imagine how many other cases he lied like that. Yeah, that's a bigger thing here. How many people did Mark Fuhrman lie on? Probably some. That would not have been the first time he ever lied in court. So that's the issue there. To be fair, I dropped a lot of hard R's when I played LA Noire. But anyways, 55-year-old Jewish doctor eyes, no offense. Well, thank you. They said OJ was acquitted because of his payback for Rodney King. Sure. I mean, they're saying that now, but at the time, there were a lot of different things that happened. I mean, and, it made it easier for them to look at all of this. The Goofy movie came out in 1995. Wow. I didn't realize that. But yeah, that's the end of Mark Fuhrman. I'll probably touch on this again on Thursday night as well. Yeah, it's just interesting, these people who are in our lives. And, when you think about how old Mark Fuhrman was only 74. And think about that. That means he was my age back in 1995. That's 31 years ago. He was 43. I mean, I'm going to be 41 in August. He was my age, and he's testifying in one of the biggest trials forever. Well, I know some of the jury said it about Rodney King, but it's just interesting how this all happened. Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but yeah, it's really, really weird. When you think about it, you figure that guy was a lot older than that. No, he wasn't. He was only 74. And that means back in 95, he was, just becoming middle-aged. The men who walked on the moon were my age. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, Armstrong and all those guys were like that. Yeah, it's wow, I've done a lot with my life, huh? And yes, they messed up a lot of the physical evidence. Detective Van Atten, drove crap back to his house, and it's have you ever done that before? He's no, I've never done that. They did all kinds of things that were so weird. That was so weird back then. Rodney King wanted it all to go away. Yes, assembly rehab interviews are rough. You want him to beat drugs, but he couldn't. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The thing with all these people. And they walked on the moon set. It's okay, the moon landing was real. Stop. They were like the Canton police with evidence. No, actually, they weren't as bad as the Canton police, but they bungled a lot of evidence that seemed was really for as big as they were, they shouldn't have been. But they set their loss set a lot of procedures in stone going forward. Next you're going to say birds are real. Yes, they are. They're not drones. Birds are real. The moon landing is a simulation by NVIDIA. So, at least Fuhrman had a college degree. I don't know, did he? Oh, he was a Vietnam veteran. He just never got sent in, but he was on a ship in Vietnam. Oh wow, yeah. So he had his workers' comp stuff where he talked about hating minorities. And he tried to get disability by acting too crazy to carry a gun, and he lost the lawsuit. So I don't know how to feel about the camera positioning. Well, like I said, we're on top of a laptop, so we kind of have to suffer. for now. I'll figure out a new one later. The OJ investigation is the first time to use a video camera to capture the scene. I don't know about that, but showing it to the jury and documenting everything they did, yeah. But it said a lot of different things there. Um, 2.0 was Lon Horiuchi's apprentice, yeah. Did he get disability for hitting minorities too hard? No. So, but anyways, that's where we are, guys. We are going to wrap this up tonight. Thank you guys all for being here. I know. Actually, hold on. VTubing for $5 says, I just started my keto diet today. I hope to get fit. Well, good luck, man. Thanks for giving me some content to watch and distract me. You're the best, Sean in chat. Well, yeah, guys, thank you all for being here. Like I said, I know this is not exactly what we all have done before. I know, like, this month has kind of sucked. I'm very sorry about that. Very sorry about that. I know not a lot of people have been watching this month, so we're trying to figure that out. We'll be back. We'll be back. We will be back, chat. Oh, Shinobubu is telling VTubing. Keto works until you stop. Use calorie counting app. There you go. Marlene says something's different. You guys are funny. No apology. Still better than Legal Mindsets bathroom streams from Korea. Well, you just got done with a meeting? Well, sorry you missed. And then real quick, EDW Raptor says, how about Shruni and Clyde down in San Diego? Oh, yeah. I don't think they were Troons, though. I thought they were like, they had like SS taped on the gas cans and stuff. The people who shot up. We'll talk about that on Thursday. But no, like that whole thing was weird. There were two of them, and there's like some video now of like one of them trying to use a Mini 14 and it wasn't working. Like, I don't know if that's real or not, but kind of interesting. And then J-Rock says, I've been apprised of the legal mindset matter. Do we A-log? No. No. He said it was a joke, and he messaged me privately. It said, I'm sorry, you know, like, it's meant that to be a joke. So, no. We're not doing anything. Stand down. Stand down! Garviel is saying, Detective Van Adder was also involved in the Wonderland murder investigation. That was actually the first actual filming of a crime scene. Oh, there we go. There's video of them self-deleting. Whoa. They did it on a Discord. Wow. He wasn't a Trini, he's a Native American. Okay, yeah, there were some weirder people there. What about Frogan? Oh, yeah, I was gonna save that for Thursday. I need some good stuff for Thursday. I need to get some butts in the seats. We need the viewership, chat. But yes, apparently, basically TLDR, chat. The negotiation for the Frogan have broken down, and Ethan Klein is now holding her in default and going for the throat. So, suffer, Frogan, suffer. Trump RX got Wegovy at a reasonable price. Yes. Train stream sim on the bench. Maybe at some point. Not tonight. Not tonight, though. And we're also on a laptop, so we don't have train sim right now. The desktop is put away. So let's see. Radcon says, oh, yeah, my gift arrived whenever you got a new P.O. box. If you mean it's already here, I'll go look for it tomorrow because I got to bring up our forwarding information. Just make stuff up at work for Legal Eagle. Jared says it's 10:30. Yeah, I know, but we got to, get things done and get a good night's sleep right now. Ethan's going for Frogan's chicken nugget stuff. Oh, yes. Bella says, you DM me something? What did you DM me here? Hold on. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, we'll talk about this on Thursday. This sounds interesting. I don't know anything about it. I have a chance to read into it, but yeah, this murder defamation case sounds very interesting. It's another case of when true crime goes wrong. Yeah, $17 million for a defamation case. Oh, man. Yeah. Adam says, use code MOVING for no state taxes when you order online. Yes, at the Dragon's Treasure. Yeah, Destiny's a girl's name. Yeah, Destiny got felted pretty bad last night by Ryan Mullally. That was pretty good. Ryan Upchurch and Lisa Candace Owens. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to all of that. But we will save that for Thursday. Like I said, guys, we need some good content for Thursday. Otherwise, it's going to be a really short stream. So we'll take a look at that then. And if we get to it at some point, maybe we'll look at the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. I don't know yet. We'll figure that out. But anyways, chat, thank you guys all for being here. And remember, until next time, guys, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. That's just so weird because, like, my hand's blocking my face. And it's like, there we go. Just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Boop. Good night, chat. Good night. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick hated yelled at?